Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. I'm your host, Victor, and on this podcast, we're watching a streaming favorite going week to week. And in this particular episode, the series we've been watching, we're just 1 week away from the finale, is Lucky on Apple TV+. A series that seems to have done pretty well, as far as I can see from the very limited streaming data we have. Joining me for this conversation about this episode, which is called Wherever You Go, There You Are, is Darren. Darren, how are you doing? I know you had a busy week. I don't know how much details you want to go into.
I'm going to say that I'm excellent, Victor, because I'm enjoying this show. I'm enjoying other shows that are around about in the world of Need Some Introduction. So yeah, let's chat about it.
The first thing I want to start off with is, I think I said this to Sona already on the most recent conversation. Can't remember who was on microphone or not. Sometimes these conversations get blurry for me. But is the fact that we have re-energized the Patreon conversations, the chats. And it was something that I didn't do a great job of understanding, that I needed to create some kind of categories there for the chats to occur. I actually thought users might be able to create their own chats. So I took the advice of some of the listeners and created some chats. And there's been a lot of conversation on there. So even Sona has emerged to participate in the conversation. So anybody who wants to go on there, the conversation has been about the shows we've been watching. Of course, watching the very popular, apparently Furious, from what I can tell, very popular for us. One of our most popular shows we've ever covered here. Really surprising since this was barely on my radar and then popped in, and so happy that we have a good show and it's popular on top of that. And Sona and I loving having that conversation as well. And, but also talking about this show and talking about just movie recommendations on there. So maybe that will be part of my conversation here of recommendations off the top. Darren, what else have you been watching? Oh, before we get into your what else you've been watching, I do want to quickly mention right off the top that I have been wobbling on Lucky the last couple of weeks. And before we get into any kind of beat by beat breakdown, I just want to mention that I thought this was a terrific episode of TV. And some of the scenes here, like Timothy Olyphant specifically, are like, they could be on an Emmy reel. I thought they were really the show at its absolute best. So I do want to, if anybody's kind of behind and, they kind of taking the temperature as to whether they should jump back in, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I was really impressed with this episode.
It's a very different episode this week, wasn't it? The chase is almost over, or it feels like it's over. And it was all conversations in rooms this week. I thought it started a little slow, to be honest, and I was a little bit worried that the Lucky's fallen off the rails. But yeah, the second half of the episode, probably some of the strongest work that they've done this season. So yeah, really into it. And what a table-setting episode to set up the finale. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, thrilling ending, absolutely, and some action. But what you said was slower earlier. I mean, I found the opening sequence when Olyphant, we'll get into this when we break it down in more detail, when we saw Olyphant just telling Lucky this backstory of his, and just one continuous take, this is his Emmy reel potentially right here. I thought, just this idea that he meets this con man and his dad, who is this supposedly noble person, is in his mind a sucker, and the con man is the one he respects. It says so much about this character and how he has raised his daughter. I thought this opening scene was really fantastic.
Yeah, he's a bit of a show-off, isn't he? He just eats up those lines and just delivers them so perfectly. He's a cool dude. What a head of hair. And he's very interesting character actor for sure.
And we loved him on Alien Earth as well. So like a very different performance, of course. So
I completely forgot he was on that show. Yeah, he was one of the best parts of that show for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Along with, what was it, Bappa, I think the other actor's name.
Yeah, gee, we're going back. That doesn't seem that long ago, but geez, it's definitely buried in my memory for a while, quite deep.
Believe it or not, I complained about how long that's going to take to come around. They need to make these things faster. We're less than a year away from by the time we cover a couple more shows, you and I together, Alien Earth is going to come back for season 2. So it's like, it's really maybe not that long considering how many shows we've been covering in the meantime.
I'm happy about that, but gee, it does say something about the trajectory of your life and how quickly the years can pass by.
Yes, 2 years seems like not that long anymore. It's pretty insane.
But I must say, I've been enjoying the chats on your Patreon. It's very interesting to see some of the things that some of the crew have brought up, some of the movies that I've never heard of that I'm now adding to my list. And it's really nice community that you've built there.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm really excited to have those conversations with everybody. Of course, the main goal of this whole project. Okay, before we get into that deeper breakdown of this episode, anything else you've been watching? I have a couple of things I wanted to bring up.
Mate, the only thing I've been watching, I watched Lucky and I watched Reacher last night. So
I watched Reacher
too. Yeah, the ultimate male fantasy is wanting to be like Reacher, and that's going to be my aim in life for the next few weeks, is be more like Reacher.
What did you think of this? And first of all, how many? There's 3 episodes available now, and then they're going to go week to week after that. And I do think we'll be dipping into that show. That's obviously an action show. There are some things to talk about for sure. But what did you think? First of all, did you watch all 3? How far did you get into it? I'll just tell you right off the top, I saw 2 and a little bit, maybe 2 1/3 of episodes. So I've seen more than 2. And what was your opinion of this 4th season?
You've seen more than me. I've only seen the first one, and the wife dislikes Reacher. She doesn't like it. She doesn't get it. So it's tough to put it on when she's out of the room or where she's going for a run. So I had to pick and choose my time last night. But gee, they know what we want now, I think. Yeah. I was surprised that they're up to the 4th season already.
Yep.
But they know exactly what we're after. They know exactly what we want Reacher to do. And that first episode, I mean, I was just playing it over in my mind this morning. He sees a woman kill herself. He beats up 2 guys. He kills another dude. He throws another guy out of the window, and he gets trying to get shot by machine guns, and then he gets tranquilized and kidnapped. And that's all in the one day, all in the first episode. I was all about it. That's exactly what I want to see Reacher do. I'm a bit worried about him getting kidnapped, though.
Oh, he'll be okay.
I know.
Everyone else has to worry, of course. But to your point, we talked about season 3. I thought the plot was too dragged out for a 3rd season. I enjoyed it almost like in a campy way, season 3. But I was kind of like, I could give or take watching season 4. Like you mentioned, I've seen like 2 and change of this. It went down so easy. This is, to me, maybe the best season of the show. And I am so interested in the mystery. I really want to solve the mystery. I love him being like the detective again. He's a version of Batman in a way. So you get to see him detecting here for sure, which I really like. And and Richardson, I should say, who's gives such an odd performance here. I don't even know if he's a good actor, although I've seen him do other performances that are not like this. So maybe he has more range, and he's very comedic in a lot of his performances. But here he is comedic, but by being so deadpan, because he basically is playing someone who's like on the spectrum, but he is funny, very funny, in being so utterly blunt in all his answers, which are hilarious. And by the way, the show somehow is able to have this very grim, this is a straight up noir. The story is pretty grim, this investigation they're doing, and a lot of innocent people end up dead. Not a lot, but a few, at least, even just in the first few episodes. And it could be like a downer, but it's not, because there's this comedy, this self-awareness in the show, but it does take the mystery seriously. I think it's just doing all that perfectly. Like it really is a blast so far. I've enjoyed this much more than season 3, and probably more than maybe any season of the show.
That's really good to hear. Yeah, I'm looking forward to pressing play on the next episode. I just love that he just operates. He's like Batman, but without a mask and without any money.
And without any body armor either.
He's got nothing but this face, and I love him being questioned by the cops, and he's like, "What are you guys playing? Good cop, dumb cop?" I mean, everything that comes, there's so much laughter that comes out of my mouth when I'm watching this show. He knows the character down now, and I love how there's also a couple of little potential love interests that are introduced straight away, because you just know that anyone wants to get next to Reacher because he's just such a legend. Yeah, that's really cool that you've seen a bit more of the man, that you think that it's one of the best seasons, because all the seasons been up and down. So this one's set in Philadelphia, which I don't know much about, the city of brotherly love, so I'm quite interested in finding out. It's all very location based each season, which I really like. The music is always just this old blues style music, which is really refreshing to hear. Yeah, what can I say? I'm just digging this show. It's just such an easy watch, and it just makes you feel so good.
Yeah, and I have to say that that's part of the reason that I'm so enthusiastic in recommending this particular season. With last season, there were times when we were even discussing it and we weren't going week to week. So I would let a few episodes go by and then binge them all in one shot, because I wasn't really like on the edge of my seat to see it every week. But these first 3 episodes went down so easy. I'm like, wow, they have really figured this out. I think I have a lot. I mean, it could all go off the rails by the end of the season, but I feel so confident at what they're doing right now, because they know exactly, like to your point, they know exactly what we want Reacher to be. We want it to be like Sherlock Holmes and a professional wrestler at the same time. And that's basically what he is, right? And that bizarre as that sounds, that is basically what we have here. And it's so much fun. So much fun.
He's never going to get away from this character. We love it so much. He's rocked up in a couple of different movies with various successes, and I think he's really good. He had a bit of real life drama. Did you see that in the last year? Yeah, that was really interesting. And still he comes out of that smelling like roses, the actual human rather than the character. So I mean, everybody's on his side, and I think bring it on.
I try not to talk about politics here on the podcast, but I do have to just bring up the fact that this promotional tour for Reacher is so crazy, because he literally has just been going around doing every single podcast, and he is overtly calling the president of the United States of America a pedophile, and just going at him over and over again in every one of these interviews, getting angry. All these, reels and such are going viral. But here's the craziest part about it. Whereas usually Trump will go on social media and just berate these people and make fun, it's as if he knows that the Reacher character is truly loved by his very base, because they were like counterpointing, being like, here's what we have from the Epstein files. We didn't, like, they're like litigating the case against his points, point for point, which is not at all how he normally goes after celebrities, right? He just calls them, he makes up a name for them. He might be confusing that he is actually Reacher. So he might be a little afraid of him, but it's pretty funny that if all the celebrities, they don't care about going toe to toe and spitting in the face of and making fun of every famous celebrity. And he loves going after celebrities, but for some reason, Alan Richson, they're like counterpointing his points, like point for point on their actual like official press releases. It's pretty funny that they take him so seriously as a celebrity, but it might speak to the fact that he is probably a very popular figure among his very base, Trump's base.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm gonna seek out a couple of podcasts.
Do the research. It is so funny. Look at his comments and then look at the response from the White House. It's so funny that he's even like engaging. It's pretty entertaining, and that
that's funny because
he does not care about like potentially alienating his base might overlap. He's just like saying like really bad things in public, which is just really pretty funny. That this is his.
Who's to argue with Reacher?
With Reacher, right? Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, I think they really think that they're arguing with Reacher, not with the actor, but with Reacher himself. So they're a little more concerned. He's a little more weight to his arguments.
Yeah, I know. Your old El Presidente likes to make up some kind of names for his opponents,
yes.
Derogatory names, but Yeah. So yeah, not Reacher. No.
Yeah. What are you gonna say about this guy, right?
Oh, so good.
The other thing I was going to bring up very briefly, only because it came up on the Patreon so many times, I had been curious to see this horror film, an Australian horror film, by the way, called Leviticus, that had made the rounds since Toronto, I think, and was picked up by Neon, a pretty expensive pickup, and it did pretty well theatrically. I'm sure it'll find its audience here in the US. Neon films go straight to Hulu, and it's a queer It Follows. There's kind of definitely a merge of those two things. And it's, a coming of age story and definitely indebted to It Follows. And I don't think multiple listeners were recommending it in the Patreon. So I'm surprised. It's interesting, by the way, that on this, on our feed, if I do horror coverage, I know you're a horror fan too, of course, Darren. But if we do horror, we don't usually get a big turnout of the audience. But of course, the horror heads are diehard. So that they always show their colors. So like as soon as this thing became available, multiple people have seen it. And I'm like, I actually saw it as well. And I don't think once it establishes this metaphor, and it's really interesting how it's trying to develop this metaphor of basically it's these boys, they're teenagers, and there is this person they bring in to be like when you have therapy, you're trying to conversion therapy, right? So it's kind of like a form of conversion therapy, but what it does is it's a curse that they put on the person, and the person sees the person they desire the most, but they are like a demon, basically. And then if just like It Follows, you can't always see what the other person is seeing. He doesn't know if he's seeing the actual person. Are they fighting because of this tension between them? Or is this the demon that he's confronting? And it kind of plays with, you don't know what you're seeing, but they both are seeing versions of each other that may be true, may not be true. So the setup is really fascinating, and it's very naturalistic, and the performances are really strong. And then I feel like it's only like an hour and a half. And then I feel like it doesn't quite have much more to say after this really intriguing setup, but I still want to recommend it because, and I said this on the Patreon as well, I really like when someone's like, this is a first film for somebody and really strong, like really well made on a budget, really great performances, smart ideas. It's, it's not 100% there, but I can't wait to see what they do next. And, and it's a little Australian film, which got national release here in the US, and I'm sure around the world.
That's a great recommendation. Yeah, we love little small indie horror movies because they're easy to get the money for and easy to produce. We do a lot of those. That conversion therapy, that's some insidious stuff, I've got to say. There's a movie called Boy Erased, which is by Joel Edgerton, which is another Australian film, which covers that kind of thing and how shocking it can be, for someone's self-worth. That sounds really cool. It's on my list. It's still playing at Art House Cinemas at the moment here. So, but yeah, these things go straight to streaming pretty quickly, I think. So yeah, it's on my list for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And like I mentioned, I just want to put a pin in it for now because it's already available at home, and Neon films all end up on Hulu here and maybe around the world as well. I'm not sure about that, so do check your local listings. But here in the US, they end up on Hulu. So within a month or so, this will be a big premiere on Hulu, and definitely worth checking out, I think. And like I said, if anything I can do is to get a few more people to pay attention to these smaller films that have the potential of breaking out. And, we've seen some massive low budget breakout horror films this year already. And this one is, like I said, I don't think this was quite there at the tier of some of these massive breakouts we've had in the past few years. But I will definitely buy stock in this director. Can't wait to see what he does next.
Cool. Great. Good. Yeah, that makes my patriotic heart swell.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada?
Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Okay, let's talk about Lucky. We are 1 week away, and kind of previewed my opinion here, and I guess you previewed it as well. But I really liked this, culmination in this episode of these themes of this parent and the relationship with this child. In this case, Lucky with her dad, but then of course counterpointed that to Annette Bening's character, whose name Priscilla.
Yep.
Priscilla's relationship with, of course, her son who died. But of course, these kind of mirror images of these parents that have a selfish way of living and have brought their kids into that world, against their own wills in some ways. And and then Lucky finally is telling him overtly two big revelations here. The more minor one is her saying to him that, you said that someday we're going to run out of land and we're going to have to settle down, as if that was like a threat of some kind, and you got to get used for that. And she's telling him, no, that's what I always wanted, when she was on the run her whole entire life. And I have a feeling that she might have her feet in the sand, the end of the beach somewhere. I think that might be the last image of this series, just putting my $2 on that. But that's one aspect of it. But then you have that Priscilla, and how her son has been destroyed by this as well. So it's an interesting duality they're showing there, and this kind of the curse, like of the parent and what the children inherit from them. And that goes all the way back to this, again, I thought this really great story where you kind of get an understanding of John, Lucky's dad, his backstory about his dad, who was just kind of this working class guy who they never really bonded with. He never bonded with his son. The only thing they would do together is go to church. And then he kind of realizes, he sees this guy, this con man, and realizes, oh, I see, my dad's a sucker. And that, he doesn't want to be a son. And that this guy, not his father became his role model, but that this scam artist preacher became his role model.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah, we get such good work from Olyphant recounting his kind of origin story. And then he thinks he was doing good by Lucky. He thinks that he was teaching her to survive. He was being the father that he never had, so that she wouldn't get suckered in by the big bad world. So good. And you can see, as a father myself, you can see that you try to do everything that you think it benefits your children, but you really don't know what you're doing. There's no manual, there's no handbook that you can read. We just fumble through it and doing the best we can based on our own life experiences and trying to form our kids into people that can take on this world. And he thinks he's been really successful at that. He thinks he's done a really good job. And to hear how Lucky felt as a girl, which has probably crystallized while they've been separated, while John has been in jail for a couple of years, she's been able to find another man in her life, the Carey, her husband, and she's been able to get a different perspective and really understand that all she wants is her feet in the sand, in somewhere that she can call home. And her dad was never able to provide that for her. Just sharing a hotel room with your daughter or your adult daughter with police outside, so you can't leave. They're trapped in this hotel room, in a very intimate kind of scenes. And especially her haven't seen him for 2 years, and the knowledge that she actually was the one that put him away.
That's the other big reveal
really
I was going to mention, which is so fascinating that, like you say, at the beginning, they're in the room and he's with her like, we're in cahoots. You guys are dumb to put us in the room together because we are like now plotting against you, and Lucky's and I are going to like run off with this money and etc. And then the reveal that she was the one who turned in inadvertently, but turned him in. And that now they're, like you said, now they're still stuck in that room together, and he does not want to be there at all. So that pivot is so fun in this show.
It really is. Yeah. There's some, really good stuff. Like I said, I was a little bit worried at the start when it was all just set in the FBI offices and he's walking around like he owns the place and chatting. Rand's Offsider gets a lot of coverage in this episode, and I was always very worried for him the whole episode.
And for good reason, the same thing. Yep.
Why are they showing this guy so much? Why are they showing him bonding and being a little bit more personable and learning a few things? Yeah.
Yeah, his backstory, what led him from the military into this job, and then it's like, oh, I see. Although he's not, you never know until someone is dead, you never count him out. But I mean, unless someone shows up really quick, he got shot. Well, actually, we're jumping to the end here, but that's a kill shot we see at the end, right? Like that. I just realized that it's not only that he got shot, because then in my mind, I'm like, he can survive this possibly. But then I guess we see the shooter out of focus and he's like right down the barrel of the gun, right? So that's definitely a kill shot there at the end.
Unfortunately, I think he's done. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think he survived that one. I know we're jumping all the way to the end, but since we're there.
No. We got to go back. Okay, what did you think about, so John lays it all out, he's doing his best, and then like he tells him, hang on, you ruined my life. This is not the life that I want. Mm-hmm. He has a night to think about it, and he actually apologizes. I was all the way to Lucky, and then his apology to her was so endearing that I swung all the way back on his side. Yep. Yeah, brilliant writing, and the performance was just so heartfelt. Just seeing him in almost silhouette at that window, bearing his soul, saying, I did my best. I thought that was my best. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah. And I honestly, even in the moment, I didn't know if I should think it was sincere or not. And then when the shooters ended up, I'm being way too conspiratorial, but when the shooters showed up, I was thinking, oh, did he like drop a dime on her or something? Like, was there some, because the shift was pretty significant from one position to the other. But it is, I agree, like that in the moment, it feels very real, although these are con men. So they have to lie to each other all the time and pull it off. But I do hope that it's sincere. And I do believe so, by the way. By the time I got to the end of the episode, he really seemed shocked that someone's coming through that door. So I don't think my theory doesn't hold water, what I was playing out with over the course of the episode. But I think that is a sincere reassessment. And I mean, his daughter's all he has, right? So obviously he's really disappointed. But that must, it must be really hard for both of them, because you have him thinking that he's been in jail and that he has, like you mentioned, the dynamic I imagine is when someone is like too into their kids becoming like an athlete, right? And like just pushing them way too hard. And sometimes the kids are participating and pushing themselves because they want the adoration of the parent, but it's not always what they actually want. It just might be what they are good at, and it's how they get that attention, but it's not what they deep down inside want. And it almost feels like that. Like she was good at it. They hung out together, and in his mind, he's like, I'm doing the right thing. She loves it. This is the life she wants. And I'm protecting her, right? Like she is in a situation now, and he's right to an extent, that the reason she can survive in this circumstance is because he has trained her to be able to do this. But she's the one who's saying like, the reason my life's at risk is because of what you did. So it's like, I shouldn't have to have this skill set. So it's this double-edged sword that she has this, ability of, hiding and evading capture. But the only reason she's in this situation in the first place is because of her dad and the decisions he made. And of course, importantly, she's saying that part of the reason she did come and, make this agreement with Rand was to protect him, that she felt that he was playing with fire, that they were on to him, that he was going to have to be killed by Priscilla, I presume, and that the gig was up pretty much, and that he refused to see it. So she was kind of going over his head by cutting this deal with Rand. And so it's very hard, right? Like to hear all these things, and that to not only realize that his understanding of his relationship with his daughter is different, but that then she did this, and she didn't do it for like, he's like, what's your angle? How do we get the money? It wasn't an angle she was playing. She thought he was about to die. He could die in the circumstance. And that is why she made the choice she made. So it's a lot that all kind of, is revealed all at once here.
Yeah, and she didn't want him to go to jail. She thought she had a deal with Rand that it was going to keep him out of jail, and it never occurred. So that's why they've got the paperwork this time, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and without an attorney present, by the way, and making this deal that supposedly is going to let them both go free for the price of this $10 million plus the head of this conspiracy. So,
well, that's the key, right?
That's the key. Yes, which it's a very simple plan, but I don't think it's going to come to fruition. It's almost like, I just thought it's like a father pushing their kid into a sport that they were really good at, that they're obsessed with.
Right.
And they train them up as like as a young kid competing with adults. They're so good, they compete with adults, and they live this life, they train, they eat, that's all they do. And then when they finally become an adult, they're like, I actually don't want to do this. I've done this all my childhood, and I wanted my own life separate to yours. Yeah, maybe that's a similar kind of parallel to that.
The other fascinating parallel within the show itself, and maybe now that I'm thinking about it, is where his reversal or his kind of full responsibility for what he's done to Lucky comes from, is when he meets with Rand much later in the episode, and he says to her that you screwed her over before, you're not going to comply with your deal. And she says, I did what I could. I tried to comply. And he's like, you're putting her in harm's way again, and you don't really care what happens to her. And she goes, if something goes wrong tomorrow and something really bad happens to her, I am going to sleep fine that night because I didn't put her in this circumstance. You did. And I think that really hits home for him. I also like the fact that he mentions to her, again, asks her, I guess this is the second time she's been asked, first by Lucky, now by him, do you have kids? And he has this, it's really fascinating that he says, yeah, you were probably just like too into your career. You never really thought about what they wanted to do. Like everything he diagnoses in her is obviously him diagnosing himself. So it really seems to be that he is, in a way, through this, biography that he imposed on her, is understanding what he's done to his daughter as well. So it's a really and again, there was like 2 or 3 really great scenes in this episode.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and he's not often lost for words, but he definitely lost that conversation. Rand came out a winner, even though you could see her thinking about her relationship with her daughter, which we thought would come into it. And maybe he's a little bit off the mark because they seem to have a very loving relationship, but in a job like that, you're going days and nights without seeing your kid and without connecting. So it is a little bit similar, but she's much more confident in her mothering abilities and her relationship than he is, for sure.
Yeah, that scene, the way that she plays it off, where he confronts her and she almost says, you're right about me. But then she throws it back in his face. I did wonder if, on the one hand, I think she's definitely playing him or handling him so that she can plant a seed in his mind, which pays off. So I do think that she just knows how to handle him. But I do think, to like what you just said, I think that there is some aspect of this because her daughter is at the hospital terrified when she thinks she's going to die. But then when she like rips the wires off and she's like ready to go back in the field again, her daughter's very upset. So in a way, it's not necessarily that she has alienated her daughter, but she is emotionally abusing her daughter by putting herself at risk and being so focused on her job, even when her life is at risk, right? Because you theoretically, that's how I am as a parent, until you have kids, you kind of fly by the seat of your pants and you're like, hey, I'm just, taking more risks than I probably should, but I'm just kind of looking out for myself. And then that really changes. Your calculus really changes when you have a kid. And that obviously hasn't happened for anybody on the show, but even Rand is part of that as well.
Yeah, and that biting comment about that you're not doing the best for your kid, I mean, that would get any parent. I mean, no matter who you are, you're going to think to all the times that you've been selfish when you've done what you want to do and you haven't really thought about your kid. Even if you're 99% always thinking of your kid, there's that 1%. And you're like, oh, well, I went off and I didn't really think about their feelings and I did just what I wanted to do selfishly. And it's always going to bite you. It's always going to hurt your heart there, which, it's a universal thing, I think.
So, of course, the other big scene is the scene where she tells him, lays it all out, that she was the one who cut the deal with Rand and how it all played out and how he's like, okay, what's your angle on the 10 million? And of course she's like, I'm out. And he's like, I want that money back. And again, we see that she's correct, that she knew that he had taken it too far and that it was too risky. But she also sees that is a pattern in her life, right? That he tries to deny it, that he had it under control, but she explicitly says, how many times did she have to get woken up in the middle of the night and pack your bags, we got to get out of here because he can't pay the bills and there's someone on his tail, right? So he repeatedly, presumably there, has made a pattern of supposedly having things under control and taking it too far because he's obsessed with his money. Like, that's my money. I love the idea that he's saying, that's my money. He's been in jail for multiple years. He could go to jail again. They're playing this game with Rand because they're kind of hoping that things play out their way. There's a chance that this whole case might be taken away from Rand at one point earlier on, and they might just be thrown in jail. And they're constantly gambling, and he's constantly gambling with his own future, but he's obsessed with getting his hands on that money. So it really feels like gambling, right? More than it feels like him being smart about getting a con and saying, I have enough money to retire on, because he probably didn't need $10 million, right? He could have probably gotten away if he had stopped with few $1 million. He probably could have, no one would have caught him, right? So it's that mentality that he needs more and more and that chip on his shoulder. And so she was probably correct that he was headed for disaster when she, and then if you read it that way, it wasn't there's a way you can read that earlier revelation that she was working with Rand because she just wanted out. She just I want a different life. I hope this doesn't take my dad down, but I just want to cut ties. But with this reveal here, it really is that she was like, I'm trying to save him from himself. And of course, she didn't think he was going to end up in jail, but it's tough. I mean, the whole situation is really tough. And it's questionable, of course, given how everything played out, whether she was right to cut the deal with Rand. But if you really believe that Priscilla was going to have to kill him, for example, then what other options did she have?
That's right. And as Lucky says, it's not your money to begin with.
Right.
It's this criminal conspiracy's money. You just stole it off them or skimmed it off the top. So, you don't have any ownership of that any more than anyone else does. So, and he couldn't get his head around that.
Yeah, I wish I understood this deal a little bit more, but I love the fact that, and speaking of people who can't quit while they're ahead, and again, that's another pattern that we see here across all these characters. Think about Whitaker. Think about Whitaker, that Whitaker is now potentially exposing himself to the police as being behind this criminal conspiracy when he is, to the public, he is a upstanding business person, because he had taken $400 million and now he wants to be made whole for this 10 million that was skimmed off of his 400 million. So he took 400 million and then he wants to make a point that no one steals from him, even though it's just peanuts, and it could take down his entire enterprise. But his ego is so massive. I wish we knew a little more about him, because that's a fascinating character, a character that has all this power and is still incredibly petty about anyone else getting anything that he sees as his. And of course, we see it with John as well, where he's saying, that's my money. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's stolen money. And he's like, yeah, but I stole it from someone who stole it. So I'm like, well, yeah, it's like turtles all the way down. I mean, I don't understand where, that logic ends, but it's an interesting psychology. And I wish Fichtner playing that character is so fascinating. And we've spent so little time with him. So maybe, hopefully, we spend a lot more time with him in the finale.
I feel like that every time I see Fichtner in a TV show, in a movie, he's not in it enough. I always want to find out more about him because he's just always just this slimy dude. Yeah, I mean, if I had $4,000 and someone stole $100 off me, I wouldn't really care, right? Like, who cares?
Especially if you stole the $4,000. Imagine you stole the $4,000, and as you were running into the car and you made a clean getaway, a couple of hundred fell on the street, and some guy picked them up. And now you're going to like hunt down the guy who took the $200 from the $4,000 you stole. It doesn't make any sense.
It's no sense at all. But I really liked when Timothy Olyphant, so John was talking to Lucky just before she left to go do the deal. And he said, you don't understand how Priscilla acts around Whitaker.
That was really
so he makes her into a different type of person. So to understand what's going on, just keep your eye on her, which I thought is really interesting. So yeah, and as we've seen, I think we've only seen a couple of scenes of her with Whitaker, and they've both been dynamite. So, and that's the only time we've seen Whitaker. So yeah, really interested in finding out more about this guy. And I mean, he's a stone cold killer. He's obviously sent those guys at the end. So it's got to be, or is it Priscilla? Don't know. But
yeah. We can talk about that at the very end because I'm curious as to why the show is very intentionally not showing who they are. Because if they're just anonymous thugs sent by whoever, that's fine. But the fact that they're always out of focus, I think it's someone we would recognize. And I don't think it's Dutch because then that's exactly who we expect to see. So I'm curious to know who that is because, anyway, maybe we can speculate on that for a minute.
It crossed my mind that it was Dutch, but I don't think so either. Yeah, just the fact they're all out of focus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Oh, what you just mentioned? You mentioned the scene that I thought was really important. Well, one of the things is definitely the idea that Priscilla's a different person when she's with Whitaker. And like you mentioned, we've only seen them together a few times. They have a terrible dynamic, but we know now, of course, that they had a child together and he seems to not care at all. And by the way, I don't think we touched on that, but in the last episode, pretty fascinating dialogue from him where she is, how can you be so cold? He was your son. You were never a father to him. And he basically says, just again, to give you the psychology of this person, he's like, he's not thinking in his mind, I am so horrible to this woman who he obviously had a relationship at some point. He says, I'm being kind to you. Anyone else on earth, you'd be dead right now. Like you are alive because of who you are. And that says so much, right? This horrible, abusive relationship he has with this woman is the best he can do. Like this is him being kind in his own mind, which is just incredible. Like the amount of bad fathers on this show is pretty remarkable.
That's hilarious. Yeah, and you think he could do a better job getting this money back than her.
Right.
He's putting her through this test for some reason, and it's probably going to be his own downfall or not. I'm not sure if this is going to go to a season 2 or not. Probably, knowing how everything goes. Yeah, but he's tasked her with getting this money back for him, which is a test. And I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't just, you say he's being kind to her. I mean, you could just sideline her and get the money yourself, which I think maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know. But yeah, very interesting and toxic and disgusting relationship. He doesn't care that his son's dead. He doesn't care about anything. I really want to know more about him. Always. Yeah. And that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Alan had mentioned in an email to me that in following up on our conversation last week, that he had seen online that people are still sympathetic to her because she is obviously treated so badly by him. And I'm sorry, like when I see her callously asking for people to be murdered on a whim, and really doesn't care that this, like you mentioned last week, this guy's a total innocent bystander, the guy who they shot in the horse stable. That and not the fact that she even feels bad that this poor guy has been tortured for nothing and now has to die. That her degree of callousness, maybe she's been made into a monster. It is definitely possible, and that's something that is brought up again. That this questioning of how she became this terrible person, this terrible parent. So maybe she has her own trauma that brought her to this point, but she is a horrible, horrible person now, just as bad as all these other bad people on the show. So I have no sympathy for her, but it is still really disgusting to see the dynamic between her and Fitzgerald.
And we're going to see more of it next week, I hope.
By the way, you just asked, I was pretty certain that this was listed as a mini-series, and a mini-series usually means that it is a one and done. But I went to look at the Apple TV app right now as you were talking, and I pulled it up, and I see the preview, the little screenshot from next week, and it says season finale, not series finale, season finale, which means they're probably going to make another season. I wish they were able to just finish the story.
So cheeky. Yeah, as an aside, I finished Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
And I really loved it. And I thought that is an example of a show that wraps up a story so beautifully and then has a little bit of a breadcrumb, which is very appetizing for a next season. So, yeah, everyone should just take notes from that season of a show because it was so satisfying. And then we can go, oh, we're going to remember that next time it comes back because we were interested in what's going to happen. Yeah, so that's what I hope and pray for all these shows. They're able to wrap it up and then kick it into the next season cheekily. But yeah, saying it's a mini series and then go, oh yeah, it's a season finale. Yeah, come on, that's just so tricky. And we see Apple do that all the time, don't we?
Yep, I agree. And that's what concerns me too, because I'm like, oh boy, this better not end on a cliffhanger. And I have to assume that they have a finite story to tell, because why make this 7 episodes, even if they plan another season of it? That, like you said, I think the Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, I had the exact same opinion when I watched it, that I was so happy that it tied up the plot completely. And you could even though it has this huge reveal at the end, no spoilers here, everybody. You should watch it, though. It's one of the more, it's not perfect, but it's a pretty entertaining watch and very short episodes, so very quick watch, and 20 some odd minutes per episode. But the season wraps up, and then it leaves you a really juicy hook for next season, which not only is a reveal that we kind of suspected earlier on, but nonetheless, it's not just that, it's that it now opens up these possibilities of how that character will interact with the bad guys in that season of the show. And it's really tantalizing, but tantalizing in a way where it could be the end of the show. Like, she's not off the hook yet. It's one of those things, right? So it could be fun to watch it in that way. Another example of this, by the way, was Margot's Got Money Troubles, which I thought was terrific. One of the best shows I've seen all year. And that one really doesn't feel like it needs another season at all. But, hey, it was popular and it got Emmy nominations. Therefore, there will be another season. And unfortunately, probably the same case here.
That wrapped up a bit more with a nice tidy bow, but and then another little season. But that's fine. And if that's only going to be the one season of the show, like Maximum Pleasure as well, I'm completely fine with that. And exactly. I can make my own second season in my brain about what they leave us with, and then we can just go with that and fantasize, and that's completely fine. But yeah, I mean, lucky. It obviously, I'm a bit worried that they're going to end on a cliffhanger. I'm always a little bit worried about that because, I don't like waiting for another year or two for something that may be great and it may not be. But yeah, I want something next week. I want something really juicy to finish it off with. but I'm not sure if I'm going to get it.
Exactly. Now I have to kind of recalibrate my expectations, because I was going to ask you to speculate on the finale. And in my mind, if this is truly a miniseries and they're like, we get this talent together, they're all very busy, right? Like Oliphant's got Alien Earth. Anya Taylor-Joy's a actual movie star. She's going to be in Dune 3 this year and many other movies to come as well. And, Annette Bening's very busy. And Collins Jr. is in 100 things. He's like in bit parts in hundreds of things, and TV shows and episodes of TV shows and regulars on TV shows. Like, he's all over the place. So these are very, very busy people. And the fact that we're now wrapping, that really concerns me. And also because there's so few people on the show, because in my mind, you can imagine this, Mexican standoff where if Priscilla thinks that Fitcher's character is going to be Whitaker, is going to get away with this, that she kills Whitaker. And that's what I actually want to see happen. And then we'll see how all the cards shake out. And at least for the moment, maybe a lot of these people, the bad parents, end up back in jail where they started the season. And she's on a beach somewhere, and she has smuggled some of that money that in her crypto wallet. She has $1 million tucked aside so she can live some form of a somewhat happy life on her own terms. And that would be a really satisfying way to wrap up. But if they're going to have another season, I don't know if they want to kill Whitaker, so, and then it becomes like, oh, I don't know. Do we want to, I want to see big fireworks in the finale. And I don't know if they're going to renew this, given how small the audience, the cast size is. Who can they kill off?
I think Priscilla needs to go, unfortunately. And yeah, like you, I think old Whitaker is going to live to see another day and to live to see another series. I don't want to tell Timothy Olyphant to disappear, because if they're going to go into another series, that's the crux of the show, is the father-daughter relationship. So he's got to survive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lucky obviously needs to survive. Rand, I'm not so sure, but as you say, there's no one else. They just got rid of their partner.
Yep. There's
no other FBI guy. Her boss,
and Carrie's been killed off. Yeah, it's like, who else they have?
Yeah. So a little bit apprehensive, but it ended on such a great vibe, this episode, that I'm excited and apprehensive about the finale. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen in this showdown?
I mean, now I've kind of scaled back my expectations there. I'm concerned that it is going to be something silly, like the cops swoop in the 11th hour and arrest Whitaker, and he's like, "You'll never make these charges stick." And I feel like maybe they let everybody, like, Priscilla's back in jail, and John's back in jail. Lucky's off temporarily because she delivered Whitaker. Whitaker gets arrested, but he's like, "You're never going to keep me locked up." And I don't know, like, I'm starting to feel like maybe they want to keep everybody on the board still. But, like I said, like if I could have my druthers, you'll have Priscilla kill Whitaker and then go to jail and, avenge her son in a way, even though, she wasn't the one who, in a way, he's, by abandoning his son, he caused all these problems. But yeah, anyway, it's but yeah, I can't, like, it would be kind of fitting for her to be free if John dies. But I can't imagine that if they bring it back, like you said, you're still going to want the flashback scenes. To get him to come back for the flashback scenes, you probably have to bring him into the regular cast. So I don't think they're going to kill John off, Oliphant's character.
Yeah, interesting. And I think her name's Lucky. She's going to end up with the money, I think.
Yeah, exactly. At this point in the show, is this like how you expected the show to go? It's like, I think the show at its best, my favorite version of the show, was when she was doing the whole Fugitive thing. And I think there's a simpler version of it, but I do like every time you'd have these kind of great actors just in a room together, having these really intense scenes. Those have been some of the highlights of this whole entire show. Not only this episode, but, even earlier on when you see Whitaker with Priscilla in that early episode, which is an incredible scene they have together, that first scene. So that's still to a large extent, the best scenes in the show. But I guess you can't do that for multiple seasons. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on the shape of the show. But all that is to say, I guess I'm not as confident now that I've seen this. I've been really rattled, by the way, really shook by the season 1 finale. Like I really thought we were going to have a conclusive end to the story. So now I'm a little more.
You really are. Yeah, maybe we need to get Apple on the blower and just let's change your tactic with this, because it's ruining our enjoyment of your show by teasing this. We don't like it. Let's change that up. What was I gonna say? Yeah, like you, I like the Fugitive style of the chase aspect, that where she's integrating into that socialites party, that kids party. I thought was really cool. I just love seeing her blend in quotation marks, and just kind of make her way and always just escape the FBI, just escape each time. That was really fun. So that's why I was a bit thrown by this episode, where it was just all in meeting rooms at the FBI offices. But okay, so going to the end of last night's episode, and the fact that these guys are out of focus, who do you think has sent them?
I mean, who could it be? I mean, that's what's so strange about it. If it's Dutch, why are they out of focus? The only thing I could come up with, and this is crazy if this is the case, I think it's a bad choice. The only thing I could think of was that it's Whitaker himself. But could Whitaker be so stupid and so enraged? Let's say he's so irrational. This guy's like a billionaire. Could he be this irrational that he would like grab a gun and like storm into a hotel where there might be cameras and expose himself? I can't imagine that. So I guess it's just a stylistic choice, and these guys are just random thugs. But the language of the show really seems to be that they're hiding something. So I don't. But who could it be? There's, like we said before, there's so few people on this show. Yeah. Who could it possibly be?
I mean, I'll be very surprised if it's not Whitaker's thugs, because there's no one else, right? Unless there's someone, someone above Whitaker or a rival that they're going to introduce.
Yeah, it could be a surprise that there's something else going on. Maybe that would make some sense, because it definitely doesn't feel like. I mean, like I said, if it's Dutch, which would be my assumption actually, then why not show Dutch? We all know what Dutch looks like, so it's odd.
Yeah, and Dutch seems cruel when necessary, but he doesn't seem like you just take out FBI agents like that. I don't think so.
And again, he does what Priscilla tells him to do. So if Priscilla sent him, but there is, now that I'm thinking about it, there is a moment earlier on at the stable actually where there's that really good scene between Lucky and her where she says, "There is one thing I don't understand. How did you catch Carrie?" And she says that that Dutch tracked him down, right?
But then in yesterday's episode, she said that Whitaker found him.
Right. So because Whitaker's got, maybe it's a police, but then even that, like let's say Whitaker's in with the police potentially, right? These are cops that are showing up and killing one of their own so that he can't identify them, and so that's how the corruption. But who could it? There's so few even named cops. Like I think if that was the case, we would have had to have like another friendly cop who is always kind of helping out when he can, that just kind of popped in 2 or 3 times, and then it turns out he's the guy. But we don't even have that. Like I said, the cast list is very short.
Yeah, Rand's boss is the only other.
That would be funny if his the sergeant is there shooting. Yeah, that'd be surprising. But maybe, who knows? Maybe. I mean, we just found that guy's a recognizable actor, and he's only been in one scene, so maybe that's who it turns out to be. That would be really weird if they decided to make that movie.
Because if you're Whitaker and you're a billionaire, you can definitely buy off a few cops for sure.
All right, planting a seed for the Patreon conversation, because I truly love the Fugitive formula. Like you're on the lam, someone's pursuing you, they're as smart as you are, and you're always just like one, just like barely get away. And like my favorite part of Minority Report, for example, is that whole section of it where they're just barely evading the cops. Love that. And there's the Fugitive, of course. There's The Day of the Jackal, the original movie, which is exceptional at all of that. That's why I love that movie so much. We did Day of the Jackal, the TV show. Some of that's a little more outlandish. Like, I had my criticism of the fact that like he lives in this opulent house and, he would have been identified like 100 times. But The Day of the Jackal, the OG movie, it's like he's really like a non-person, so he can just disappear and put on some makeup and color his hair and makes himself look older, changes it, and it's really effective the way he's able to. So my challenge to the patrons out there is, what's your favorite of this type of movie? Because as much as I love them, I'm actually having trouble thinking of other really good examples of that.
I'm gonna have to put my thinking cap on, and I'll provide a few examples if I can think of some. But right off the top of my head, The Fugitive is the gold standard, isn't it? Yeah. So, but there's got to be so many.
And if there's not, the fact that I'm actually kind of shocked that I need to rack my brain to think of more, because I do love this genre, and I'm like, why aren't there more? This is like I think it's a very juicy premise for a show or a movie or a story, period. Make more of those. It doesn't seem that hard to be able to do that. Actually, Relay. Have you seen Relay?
I've not, no.
There's, oh my God, what's his name? He was in, we just talked about that.
Riz Ahmed.
Oh my God, Riz Ahmed, yes. So Riz Ahmed is in this film, which I think is on Hulu now. And if you haven't watched it, I really recommend it. It's 2/3 of a great film. The first 2/3 of the movie, I'm like, man, I'm going to give this thing 4.5 stars. And then the ending's like, oh, well, that's it. It was kind of disappointing like that. So I still recommend the movie though, because the first 2/3 are so great. But in the US, people who have hearing disabilities, they have a system called Relay, where you can type a message to someone else who speaks the message to somebody else. And by law, nobody can keep a record of those. Like all transcriptions, nothing is recorded. All transcriptions have to be destroyed. So he uses the Relay as a way for him to be completely anonymous. And what he does is he facilitates whistleblowers who are being threatened by these large corporations. He negotiates a settlement between the whistleblower and the corporation so that the whistleblower gets money and the company doesn't get exposed. And he is this broker in between, and he works completely anonymously. And the way he communicates is always through the Relay. And I thought this was so fascinating. It was like a whole subculture I knew nothing about at all. And it's so clever how he uses the Relay to allow this communication. So that's, again, this formula that I really love. So anyway, that's a little different than what it's not the stereotypical version of the man on the, hiding from investigation, but it is, but it's kind of in the vein with that. So that's another one that kind of fits the mold. And it is recent and available on Hulu. So check that out. That deserves a little more love, I think.
I love Riz Ahmed. He always deserves a bit more love, I think. What about North by Northwest? Would that fit this kind of model?
He's a man on the run. The only issue I think I have with North by Northwest is that it's not really like The Fugitive, because my particular pleasure in it is seeing someone evading capture, using their wiles, and that they're being pursued by someone who is equally clever in a way. North by Northwest is like Cary Grant looking like Cary Grant, running around in a suit and tie the entire movie and somehow evading capture. And we don't really see the opposite side of the investigation in a way. So that is, so I think that's a little bit different for that reason. And then there's like the Columbo, I'm not talking about that though, like Columbo and, like Poker Face, where, the criminal and the detective know that they're guilty or being investigated, and that cat and mouse is playing out, where like Sleuth, right? Sleuth, the movie, is kind of in that vein as well. So that's not what I'm talking about. It's like an actual manhunt, right? Like those are the ones I'm actually talking about, where you're, like Running Man could have been that, but didn't really pull it off.
Yeah, I was thinking, Running Man, Total Recall, possibly another one. Apocalypto? What about Apocalypto?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because that's kind of like just a straight up chase movie. So yeah.
I do really love that movie. I've seen it a couple of times. It's blown my mind. God, Mopson, he's got some juice when he wants to, that's for sure.
I've never seen, did you ever see his, the war movie he made? I got all those Academy Award nominations a few years back.
I have not.
Andrew Garfield.
Garfield's in it. Is Jacob Elordi in it as well? Yeah, I have not seen that, but that's been on my list. Yeah. Mel Gibson, he likes brutal movies, doesn't he, when he directs?
Yes. I mean, now we're having a Mel Gibson digression, but I find it fascinating. Not only is he obsessed with Jesus, and then when he makes his Jesus movie, he has to watch like Jesus get brutalized for big chunks of the movie. But he himself, I think at least all of his characters he plays go through this kind of torment, physical torment. And it's all his movies, like, whether it's Lethal Weapon but all of them, I mean, like Payback and you name it. Like he gets tortured. His character gets tortured in every one of those films brutally. And he just has something, he likes that. I don't know. He likes to, of course, Braveheart, right? With the being flayed, being what do you call it? Disemboweled at the end. There's always some way that he has to be like crucified and disemboweled or worse.
Carries over into his real life as well sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's quite the character. Did you hear about his 2 sequels to The Passion of the Christ that he's making?
Oh, very, very vaguely. That movie didn't do it for me at all. I remember going to see that in the cinema, and it's not my cup of tea. But he made he made so much money from that.
A lot of money. Yeah.
I'm wondering why it's taken so long for him to come up with sequels or prequels to this, because you'd think that there's a willing audience to watch what he's got to say about
the fact that Jesus died at the end was, but by the way, worry not, because he just announced that he's not making 1 movie, which was supposed to be in the works, that it's actually going to be 2 movies, but it is actually Jesus after his death in hell fighting the devil.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Yeah, I'd say that.
See, you're back on board again. You're back on board.
I mean,
it could be the next Lethal Weapon movie.
Oh, why not? Yeah. Good on Mel. How did we get onto this again?
That's your Australian pride again. All right, we'll end on that note.
There's nowhere else to go.
So next week, so a bunch of things, by the way, Darren. I don't know how you want to address this. We have Lanterns, which is going to be the next show we follow after Lucky. So maybe but then we're going to be covering Furious earlier in the week. So I think what we're going to do is next week, we'll talk Lanterns. We'll talk a little bit of Reacher, and primarily we'll talk about the finale of Lucky, of course. And then the following week, it's going to be Lanterns and Reacher. We'll talk about Reacher. Why not? I mean, Reacher's always going to be like, man, see when he popped that guy's eyeball out? That was the best part. That's going to be
I'll talk about Reacher with anyone at any time. So yeah, let's do that.
So yeah, we'll be talking about Lanterns and Reacher, of course, always, especially if something there are some very fun over the top kills, for example, and which I've heard this season takes things to another level. So they're like, it's like slasher film, the levels, which I think it's building up to that, because I've not seen anything that brutal in the first 3 episodes. But we did, like, by the end of last season, like some of that stuff was like straight out of a slasher movie. So, and of course, I'm there for that too. So it's all part of the Reacher recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to Lanterns. I haven't seen or heard anything about it. I'm just looking it up now. But our mate Aaron Pierre is in it.
Yeah.
From
Much,
from that one film whose name escapes
Ridge,
me.
Something Ridge. Not Hacksaw Ridge, which is the movie of the Mel Gibson movie I was trying to think of.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yes, but the other Ridge film, which I prefer. But it's he is incredible in that.
Rebel Ridge is that
Ridge.
movie, yeah. So that's the only thing I've seen this Aaron Pierre in. I see Kelly MacDonald is also in it. She's always excellent in anything. And that's on HBO Max. I can see. Yeah, so I think I got rid of that after I don't know, one of the shows that we were watching. So I'll get that back and we'll watch Lanterns and let's hope it lives up to, I don't know, is there any hype around it? I don't know. Let's hope it lives up to Damon Lindelof's
I think there's always going to be curiosity just when his name's attached to him. And of course, everyone is always curious about DC Experiment, which is every time you think it's dead, it comes back from the dead, and then Supergirl comes out that it's dead again. So who knows?
Yeah. Cool. All right. Looking forward to it. Lots of things happening. Lots of shows around at the moment. And yeah, it doesn't look like
Wait
it's
till
stopping anytime
September.
soon.
It's going to get really packed. We're going to be talking about 3 or 4 shows at a time. Usually the same episode. We'll just have to like chop it up and be like 20 minutes per topic or something.
All right. You have to surprise me. Don't put it in my head.
I'm not even going to. I'll surprise you with it. All right, Darren. Thanks again for the conversation, and I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Victor. Thanks so much. Have a week.
You too.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.